Once upon a time, there was a Chinese prison that had a guard shift every 12 hours, except for one cell. See, in this one cell was a man named Watchman Nee, and his entire job and purpose in life was to spread the gospel. Watchman Nee had spent many years working on building the Chinese church, only to have the communist Chinese government show up and kind of just take all of it away according to the law. And when the government had decided to announce that no one was allowed to worship Jesus anymore, Watchman Nee had urged many of his friends and colleagues to leave the country for their protection and for the preservation of the church, but had then decided to stay himself to protect what was already established, to fight as long as he possibly could, and to spread the gospel as far as he possibly could inside of the Chinese government, so that everything that they had worked for and established already would not be lost. So why then did the guards not have a 12-hour shift for Watchman Nee? Well, as the legend goes, Watchman Nee decided that his time in prison was no hiatus from being able to represent Christ well and being able to spread the gospel. Now, because of the way that the people had loved him and because of the way that he had represented Christ throughout his life, Watchman Nee was assigned a personal guard over their shift. And the reason that they didn't have a 12-hour shift to guard Watchman Nee is because he was converting them too fast. Watchman Nee would take the 12-hour shift and he would witness to the guard and he would talk to the guard personally and he would actually inspire them to change so often in that 12-hour time period that the government decided we need to put him under a different timeline. We're going to move him to 8-hour shifts. You only get 8 hours around this guy, otherwise you might convert to Christianity. And Watchman Nee simply said, "Oh good, I get more of them now." And continued to do the same thing, and they had continued to have the same problem of losing guards in an 8-hour time period to this Watchman Nee fella. Now, this is just a portion of Watchman Nee's story, and it is truly amazing, and I hope that you will go and look up more of his story. But really, one of the most interesting elements of his story is how he shared the gospel. He shared it fearlessly. He shared it boldly. And in some cases, he shared it boldly with other Christians who then were frustrated that he shared it in the way that he shared it. It's very easy to tell that the gospel is a heavy and triggering message. And it's something that I think we as Christians need not neglect. It is a difficult message to hear for a lot of people, and it's a very challenging message for those who are not living according to the path that Jesus has set. So the risk that we run when recognizing the true power and grit behind the gospel message is that we may recognize it for its power and then try to tone it back a little bit. Try to soften the blow onto people. But with the power of the gospel and with the difficulty that comes with it, both in presenting it as truth and also accepting it as truth, this message carries great hope and promise for anyone. It says whosoever. It means literally anybody. Even Barabbas, if he chose to look at Jesus on the cross, he could be saved. Even though he was the very literal replacement that Jesus was placed in the cross situation for, he could be saved if he just saw Christ for who he was. That hope and that life-changing power is exactly why Watchman Nee presented the way that he did. He was unashamed of the gospel. He was unafraid of the consequences because he knew that presenting the gospel well and teaching it to others, showing it to others, could present radical life change. And we are called and must do the same. So instead of being afraid to present the gospel for whatever reason, let the enemy be afraid of you and how you are going to share your testimony.